And we want to start with Springfield, and me and Ty both said we have to get Matt Seidel to talk a little bit about the Springfield Tigers. Obviously, everyone knows what they've been about the last 2 years. Ty, why don't you break down who they're returning and what they lost last year?
Well, let's look at their offense first. I mean, on offense that averaged over 40 points per game last season. That was third in the entire area. Returning 7 of those starters on that offense, too, and the biggest one of all being Bo Brungard at quarterback going into his senior year. Looking for big numbers again from Brungard, looking for him to top his previous years under Springfield and Coach Guerrero's offense. Aaron Groner, tight end for them, is a huge, huge target as well. AJ Stallsmith is a great wide receiver. Guys they lost, though, as far as the Tigers offense, there was a few losses. Brady Brungard, Bo's brother, obviously offensive lineman, is gone. Lucas Yema, a wide receiver that was very talented for them, is gone. Clay Medvik, also not there. Clayton Nesbitt, also another one that's missing. But the good thing about Springfield's offense, and I mean, Coach Seidel can comment on this one as well. Coach Guerrero has done a great job of just filling those positions and bringing the next man up mentality. And it seems like every single time they lose one of those seniors that was such a star the year before, a junior or a sophomore or the next year's senior is right there to step into that spot and fill those big shoes. And I mean, it's a culture of guys leading each other, it seems like, over there in Springfield with that offense.
Yeah, I think Ty's right. They've really just kind of built that culture of next man up kind of mentality. And, you know, Coach Guerrero and his staff have done a tremendous job of kind of building that program and continuing on with some of the success that they had even before they got there. And then obviously, you know, culminating in a couple of appearances in the state championship game these last 2 years. You know, Brady Brumgard is a huge loss, not only as a person, but obviously physically he's a huge loss as well. That offensive line unit made things go for them last year, and it's going to be interesting to see how they replace some of those names with some guys that may be a little bit different of a skill set than some of the guys that were seniors last year. You know, I have no doubt that Coach Guerrero is going to be able to figure it out and that they'll be successful again this year. Obviously, it all starts with Bo in the backfield. And when you've got a kid like that with a high football IQ and also great football ability, he's always going to be dangerous.
And this is going to be scary for you and everyone in the NVAC to answer, but how can Springfield get better? I mean, you always have to get better every year. Well, I mean, other than winning a state championship, what can they do to get better this year? What things can they even improve on?
Yeah, I think it's all kind of in the details. And if you look at, you know, some of the little things that they do, I know that they're probably talking to their guys about, you know, focusing on things like footwork and making sure that routes are crisp, you know, making sure that their assignment sound in all 11 positions. The other place that I think that they're going to have to figure out pretty quick here is, you know, Clay Medvik was a dangerous weapon for them for 4 years. You know, a kid that even in the kickoff game, he could just kind of place the ball wherever he wanted. They did a really nice job with him of kind of directionally kicking and trying to pinion that coffin corner of the end zone down there and still make you field the ball and come out and obviously take it from the 1 or the 2 yard line and then corralling people in there. That was one of the things that I noticed about their last couple of playoff runs that was so successful for them was their special teams were so crisp. So to find a replacement for Clay Medvik is going to be a big deal real fast.
Looking too on their defense, Coach. I mean, everyone talks about this high-scoring offense, but this defense of Springfield is one of the best in the area as well. And we talked about the returnees, and I mean, we know Bo, and there's a couple of Bo's on that defense that are really ones to watch out for. Bo Brungard, totaling 3 interceptions last year, and then of course Bo Snyder, a big linebacker and a tackling machine for Springfield's defense. There's some great returnees. 8 starters are returning, and a lot of those guys play two-way on offense and defense. And like you said, Coach, a lot of high football IQ all around this team, and you could tell that by these two-way players just surrounding everywhere.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Bo Snyder, and that's a big, strong, physical linebacker who's going to hit you in the mouth every single time that you've got the ball. I think the thing that makes them so good on defense is the fact that they're so assignment sound. You very rarely see them blow coverage or miss an assignment or lose their gap control on defense. And that if you can do that and you can be very gap sound and assignment sound, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Ty, let's break down their schedule a little bit and see what the Springfield Tigers have in store, not just for their conference, but their non-conference games as well.
We'll look at their first 3 non-conference games because that's just how they set it up with it. 3 non-conference followed by 7 conference. So the 3 non-conference games for Springfield to start out: home versus South Range, at Brookfield, and at Geneva. And I mean, they didn't shy away from competition, especially those first 2 weeks. South Range and Brookfield, 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they fare through those first 3 games. Obviously, some things to sort out, but I think that, those are great tests. And obviously, they're scheduling games like that with an eye towards a long playoff run again, as they've kind of carved up our league here for the last couple of years. I think there's a couple of teams that are taking some steps to kind of get a little bit closer, but I do still think that they're the class of the league.
Man, when you look at that South Range game, they're so evenly matched. Everyone was clamoring for that matchup last year. This year, I mean, I think the one glaring difference is Springfield has their quarterback set, and right now, South Range still trying to look for who they're going to replace Michael Patron with. That could be a big key in week 1 when South Range will be starting a new quarterback, and Springfield will be having Bo Brungard, locked in.
Yeah, it's always difficult, too, when you're going up against a guy like Coach Yeagley, because there's just such a wealth of football knowledge there that he's going to have his team ready to go. His guys are going to be prepared. And he's done such a great job over the years of assembling a staff and putting together a program that, is really cohesive from the ground up.
When you talk about Springfield's conference schedule and some of the teams that might have a chance to shock the world, I look at last year's Western Reserve game, and even though Reserve didn't score with the ball, they held the ball for a long time in that first half. Definitely a team that's able to control the ball for a long time, along with McDonald. I look at one of those teams. The ball control teams are going to be one of the teams that might have the best chance to knock them off. Don't you think, Coach?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. They're so dangerous offensively, and they can score, in the blink of an eye if they want to, that you're going to have to slow the game down and play that ball control style against them. And so you're right. I look at teams like Western Reserve and even Mineral Ridge is the team that I think, if they can figure out some of the things that they're working on with their offensive line unit, they could be a team that presents a little bit of a challenge for a Springfield team. I know that that's an early game in the season, and so you're going to have to figure those things out really early on and be ready to go.
Ty, how does Springfield's conference schedule shake out?
Looking at their conference schedule, opens up September 10th at Lowville, 17th home versus Mineral Ridge, September 24th at McDonald, October 1st home versus Waterloo, October 8th home versus Western Reserve, 15th home versus Jackson Milton, and then 22nd at Coach Seidel's own Sebring. And looking at this conference schedule, I highlighted Lowville earlier too with Sebring, but I want to highlight them again. I mean, we talked a little bit about those McDonald and that Western Reserve game. Lowville's interesting to me because it's coming right off of a South Range, Brookfield, and Geneva non-conference schedule. So you're already going through a gauntlet of 3 games. Another interesting thing is, and what Coach has said, and kind of as what it looks to be, is they're going to be throwing the ball a lot this year. And that's going to be interesting with a lot of two-way players that are going to be on Springfield, going to have to be dropping back into coverage and probably going to have to be keeping up with guys a lot on defensive pass coverage. So when you look at guys like Bo Brungard that are playing defensive back and have to come back in on quarterback, yeah, we know they're athletes, but we also know fatigue does play a part in a game at some point. And if they're airing it out a lot, forcing these guys to drop back, fatigue's going to play a part at some point in this game.
Yeah, I think the key to that game is going to be the line play. And obviously, no shocker, Coach Seidel loves the line. But I do think that, if Springfield can get a good pass rush, and it's so important when you're playing against Vinny Blown that you keep him inside of the pocket, because once he gets outside, there's so many things that he can do, either running the ball or throwing the ball on the run. You've got to have that contained there. So that's one of the things that I look for to be a key in that game.
And here's a question from Chris Sigler. I'll just send this right to Coach, because you're going to be one of the teams that's going to have to try to, get your team prepared to mentally prepared to pull that upset off. What kind of things do you tell a team when they're coming up against a powerhouse like Springfield to keep them confident and make them believe in themselves a little bit?
Yeah, I think the good news, Chris, is most of the time, kids today, they don't really follow all the press clippings. They don't really, follow along as much as maybe we did when we were kids, or at least the kids in my program don't. And so they really just look at it as another game on the schedule. And, we do talk about, hey, that's one of the best teams we've seen on film so far. Let's really, grit down, bear down, and prepare this week. And I think that it's an opportunity for coaches to say to their guys, this is the one where we're going to have to be unbelievably assignment sound in everything we do, because they've got guys that can make you pay at every level of their defense and every level of their offense.
You brought them up a little bit earlier. I think another sneaky team on Springfield's schedule is going to be the other orange and black team in the conference in Middle Ridge. I wouldn't sleep on the Rams if I were teams in the MVAC.
Yeah, Coach Shaner's done a tremendous job since getting there, and Coach Shaner and I are personal friends outside of here and outside of football. But I'm a real big admirer of not only what he's doing with their football program, but what their entire school district is doing. Putting in a turf field this year, opening up a field house in the coming years. I just think that that's a district and a community that's really got it together athletically. They're finding some of the right things to do, and they're taking some big steps and some strides. I can remember when, I was first starting to coach 16, 17 years ago, that, Mineral Ridge was one of those games that you looked at as, okay, we're going to show up and we could probably win that game or be close in that game. And now you have to prepare tremendously for that team because there's so many things that they can do.
Getting to 3 state championships is so hard. I don't think people understand how tough that is. What do you think Springfield would like have to have happen for that to culminate? Do you think they're really set and all the pieces are there still?
Yeah, I think that, I think that there's pieces there, but I think all of us are questioning some of those things still right now. As we kind of got pads on this week and we're starting to see what some guys can do and maybe where the work in the weight room in the off season has paid off. I think, obviously this weekend with scrimmages starting, you're going to answer a lot of those questions. And, I would trust Coach Guerrero to kind of have those things figured out as they head into the football season. But I think that he would probably tell you too, a lot's going to depend on how well that offensive and defensive line can gel together, obviously with some key losses there.